So now you're not getting exception. So I add a try catch handling in the future method. Now it handled. So where we are saying. Mm, 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 mm. So in the trigger handler, or where are we saying actually contacts and this before insert. So we're checking for some error, right? Yeah, this one. So this one, either phone or fax should be populated. So we're going to handle this one account, and then so we have asset this also matched. So insert is fine, and before update we're trying to handle this exception with the asset equals. So this worked fine. Now after insert or checking before insert. So we have this one check test error messages and all. Similarly, we can have for before insert also. You try to give without rating. So if you give a rating blank and you were expected to get this messages, so we will be having this EML exception handle in the insert, and we're going to handle that exception messages and covering those lines as well. So when you're trying to cover the errors or an exception blocks, then again in the test class also you need to try with the try catch blocks and expected those error messages as well. And after insert, so when we are giving it as a hot after our trigger, what actually we're expecting? We're expecting that active flag will be um, active flag of this account will be checked as S, right? So that one also we can give. So when it was being set, so it is on the before insert only. So here after insert being there, then you can sorry, after insert account after insert select select name comma what it is actually something account active name comma active from account where id equal to a dot id. So here system dot asset equals, and the expected value of it is going to be a yes or true. What it is? Yes, right? Yeah, it's going to be a yes, and this record dot active also what is has to be yes. I have not set the active value well inside, but my trigger logic will set has to set my active to S. So I'm going to test that over here. Hmm. So here I have to call place it down. No good place Okay, so So I run the test and let's check. So this is how it's giving a coverage and how to write a test classes. Okay, now quickly we see about a deployments. I will show in why, because it's a test development, or we don't have anything called a deployment over here. So I will show in my one of the org. I'll just log in and I will stop sharing for a while. So I'm going to log into one of my development org and sandbox, and I will show you how a chain sets inbound and outbound chain set and how we validate. I will show here. So how you can try out is you can sign up for any of the enterprise, or like with the enterprise edition, or where you will get a 30 days trial period where you can try out with the deployments, where you have a enterprise org and you can have a sandboxes, and you can create some sandboxes over there, and then you can try deploying some components to one org to other org, and you can run your test classes while deploying and see that. Let me know if you see my screen.
Yeah, Balaji.
Yeah. We'll be having an option called outbound chain sets. So outbound chain sets similarly. So outbound chain sets here. Right? Similarly, here we'll be having a inbound chain sets as well. So outbound chain set means where you would like to upload the changes from this org to a different orgs. Let's say when you try to create a new outbound chain sets, then we'll give some name over here. Um, my outbound chain set one. For example, you will add some description you need. Once you have chain set ready, then you will be adding a component to it. We will add a components, and if you want to check any dependent components are there, it will give a list to us. And if you want to deploy the profiles also, you can add a profiles. And remaining all you can add over here, like it could be Apex classes, Apex triggers, custom apps, AI applications, links, sites, analytics or class, sharing rules, sharing reasons, approval process, assignment rules, or components, buttons, links, campaigns, all custom fields and custom index or custom objects. Everything will be there. Custom permission sets will be all over here, like workflows, process builders, load definitions, visual force pages, tabs, sharing rules, sharing criteria, queues, public groups, everything you can add from the list. And once you have done, then once you add all your components and you are ready to upload, then this upload will be enabled at least when you add one component, then we will be able to upload, then it will be showing the connected orgs. So once you upload to a certain org, then you will be having a, you need to log into the other org and you need to check for a inbound chain sets. So in the inbound chain set, so it will take a few minutes time to upload from there to the current org. So whichever org you uploaded, once you log into there it will take some time to reflect the inbound chain sets. So you will be in, you can see the connected org, like deployment settings you will be having. So deployment settings, you will be having what are all the connected orgs. So if you are not connected, you can enable the connection so that you can check the connection, and only the connected orgs only you can. So you can see here, right, the connections. It's broken or it's both are green. That means they are connected. This how we can check the connection. If it's broken, just you can do a edit and then you can enable the connection so that you are establishing the connection. Once the connection is established, then you can go ahead and what I can say, go ahead and upload and uh, the outbound chain sets. Once you um, outbound chain sets are uploaded, then you will be seeing the inbound chain sets. So once you have an inbound chain set, there you will be seeing four options to deploy. So I'm going to show a different org where I have some inbound chain sets. I'm sharing screen 1 second. So in the inbound chain set, I will explain some high level deployments over there. So here, inbound chain sets. Inbound chain sets are inbound and outbound chain sets. So outbound chain set where we have our components. Any Apex core or configurations are present are all components to your outbound chain sets. Upload the chain set to a connected arcs. Upload your chain set to a connected arcs, and it will take some time and reflect in a destination arc in inbound in inbound chain sets. So in inbound chain sets, so we can see the all uploaded chain sets in inbound chain sets list. We have 4 options to deploy or validate the chain sets. So what is a deploy and a validate? What are the differences? Differences is validate means first of all it will check. So you'll be having some list of components that you want to deploy, right? So let's say you have some Apex code. So in your Apex code, there will be some custom objects and fields that you refer, and whether you have added all the dependent resources to it or not, it will validate first time. All your components or all the relations, everything is present there, or you're missing some fields. If you're missing some fields, it will say so and so fields are missing and so and so class are not exist. So try to add, or the validation or deployment is fail, it will say. First, it will validate the components. And then if you have any a test that you're running, then it will run the test. And if you have a code coverage or any of the tests are passing or failing, if anything are failing, or if your lack of code coverage or any of the components are not valid, it will be check everything in deployment and validation. Both will check the same, but only the difference is deploy means after validation, it will immediately deploy the things, and validation, it will just do a validation, it will not deploy anything. and keep it ready for a deployment. The validation means. After that, I said like there are four options to do the deployment, right? Now we'll see how it looks when we saying validation or deployment. What are all the four options? The four options are default, local classes, local test, all test, all test classes, specific test classes. Okay, so what are all these three options? So default option is, so it will run test classes only if are required. Then only it will run the test classes. Suppose if you're moving from a sandbox to sandbox where the test classes are not required, so without running a test class also you can deploy the code. But if it is in production, even if you're running a default test, and if you're having some apex code, then it will look for the test classes. Also it will run. Let's say your chain sets are not having any of the apex code, it is having only some kind of configurational stuff or visual force pages only, then the test classes are not required. You can directly deploy your components. So in those scenarios, if you run the default, it will not run any test classes. And if you opt for a local test classes, even though if you have any apex code in your chain set or not, doesn't matter, it will run on all local tests. What the local test means? Local test means which are all you developed. So either already deployed or are part of the chain set that you're having any test classes. So it will run test classes. It will run all test classes that are already deployed and part of the chain sets, but not managed packages test classes. So you might have installed some managed packages and some any of the apps that you might have installed, which might be having also Apex Code and Apex test classes. The local test means it will not include all those. It will include only that you built, not from any packages that you already deployed to your org or that part of your chain set. It will run both the test classes that are available in your org. So when I'm saying all test classes, it means it will execute all test classes, including the including managed packages as well. Now, the third option, only specific test classes. It doesn't matter about a local or a managed package or all. So you're going to specific the test class names. So we are going to provide the list of class classes that only need to run in a text area box with a comma separated values. That's what a specific test classes are. Here is a run specific test classes, run all test classes, run run defaults. These are the four. Now let's look at how the UI looks. So in the inbound chain sets, if I go to inbound chain sets, Chaitra, shh. We're looking at the chain. Once you upload a chain set, it will be like this. It will give you who uploaded, when uploaded, what is the what is the source organization, and what is the description that you mentioned, what is the chain set name. Okay, now let's say I have this one chain set, and if you want to deploy, so you having the what are all the components. So you have one component here saying a report, and then you have two options. Either you want to delete it, validate, or delete. So when you having validate or delete clicked, what will happen was it will give you four options: default, run local test, run all test, run specific test. So here, when you look at a default one, keep the following default behavior. In sandbox, no tests are executed. In production, all local tests are executed. If your chain sets contain Apex class and triggers, local tests all tests, local tests are all tests. Expect the ones that originated from the managed packages. Except anything from managed packages, it will run all the tests when you are deploying it to a production. If it is sandbox to sandbox, it will not execute any test classes. So if you don't have any Apex component, so even it's a production also, no test will be run. If you specify a run local test, all tests in your organizations are run except the ones that originate from a installed managed packages. The test level is default for a production deployment that include Apex class and triggers. Run all tests. All tests of your organization are run, including the tests are from a managed package. Run specific tests. Only tests that you specify. So here we need to give that comma separated values. Specify are run. Provide the names of test names in a comma separated list. Code coverage requirements differ from a default coverage requirement when using a level in production. The executed tests must cover the tests and trigger coverage with a minimum 75% of code coverage. This coverage is computed for each class trigger individually and is different from an overall coverage percentage. Okay. Now, what is the difference is, so basically when you're trying to deploy, you need overall code coverage of a 75% of code coverage is required. So when you run the local test or all test, you need overall 75% of code coverage. But when you run a specific test classes, so you can mention what test classes only need to be run. But here, instead of overall code coverage, you have to give a individually at least 75% of code coverage required for the classes that you are trying to deploy. So the thing was, let's say you're having some files that you want to deploy, and already some files are already deployed. Say 100 files are already 100 classes, for example, 100 classes already deployed, and all of them are having overall code coverage is 85%. Okay, so they are deployed. Now you want to deploy some 10 more classes or triggers, anything which are overall is having only 70% of code coverage only overall. That means some of the classes are having less than 75 code coverage. Some of them even though have 100% doesn't matter, but it looks overall lines. But when you use a run local test and take the help of existing code coverage, so that's 85% already you're having, and you're having some 70% on the aggregate on both, and combining both number of lines that you take, if you're having more than 75% overall code coverage, it will allow you to deploy. But when you run a specific test classes, what are all the apex code that you're trying to deploy, each class or each trigger should have a minimum of 75% of code coverage. There is no concept of a overall code coverage. Okay, that's what restrict. So you have you can only take care of only the classes you are deploying. But thing was, instead of overall code coverage, you need a specific file code coverage is a minimum 75% of code coverage, not a overall code coverage. So that is only the difference you need to keep in mind. That's all. So validation, you can run any number of times, nothing to worry. But if you don't want to deploy the same time, let's say if you're having a deployment on Monday, and you want to make your job easier on Friday or on weekend, what you will do is you will upload the change sets and keep it ready, and you will validate. And once you validated the change sets, so that if you find there is no errors and everything is validated perfectly, then you are ready to deploy on your Monday. Just you have to click on deploy, so there is nothing to look at it. Okay, so validation is help to ready your deployment readiness. So if you have any failures, then you will again upload the change set, what are the missing components, and if any test failures, again you go back and fix your test classes and keep it ready for the deployment. So validation is used to keep the code ready for the deployment. And deploy means actually it deploys the code after validation. Even in the deployment also, you will run the validations, and after validation immediately it will deploy. But validation, it will only stop after validation. Nothing will happen after validation. Okay, that is overall on test classes and what all deployments and how to deploy using a chain set. So I'll try to get some trial log and we will see, do some mock deployments and how actually it looks. Looks, we have some topics called SOSL and dynamic apex, or some of the topics we are not covered at. So we'll see. We'll connect on Monday and continue on this SOSL and SOSLs and dynamic schema, and whatever we have left. If it's Monday, Tuesday, how many days it will take, we'll continue and complete those topics. So if you're having any questions, you can reach out and can connect. We'll connect back on Monday. Okay then. See you guys. Any questions?
Yeah, no questions, Bala. Thank you.
Hello, Deepa, do you have any questions?
No questions, Bala.
Okay then. See you guys on Monday. and have a good weekend. Bye.
Thank you, Bala.
Thank you, Prala. Happy with it.